But all that changed when different people decided to get the help from Gibby by giving them $25,000. And they managed to save Sam's mom, but due to the fact that there's not enough time in this episode, we get a scene where Spencer is in the shower, and that's how the episode ends. I'm not kidding. We don't see Sam's mom in this episode, unlike Sam's mom. Look, I know that Sam's mom is expensive and very hard to find, but is this really how you're gonna end this episode? Just having the iCarly game to wait for Spencer in order to drive the car? This second half of this episode just feels very pointless, and it only exists because of the title of this episode. Here's the thing. Gibby or the iCarly gang didn't use anything. Gibby didn't use his head because he was stupid enough to actually use something. He lost it because Sam made Gibby unconscious. I feel like if Gibby actually came with the iCarly game in the first half of this episode, it will probably be very great to see Sam's mom again in this show. In fact, they should have changed the title to I Saved Sam's Mom from Juvie or something like that. That would have been a better title than I Lost My Head in Vegas. This episode just feels like it only exists just to have Chumley be in it, and the second half of this episode is just too forced and it's just very unnecessary. I swear, the second half of this episode only exists just to have the title of this episode. As for the mission that the iCarly gang had to do, I understand that Sam wants to bail out her mother, but seriously, this is really getting ridiculous. At this point, getting to jail so many times is getting old, and even though that Carly and Freddie and Gibby and Spencer are helping her just to be friends, doesn't really make it an excuse to have this episode exist. Especially that we never get to see Sam's mom in this episode. This episode is just boring and predictable. Especially that the jokes that they made, like trading to the items that they have, is obviously some ideas that they have in earlier episodes. And as for Gibby's head thing, guess what? In Sam and Cat, Gibby has another head. But with a hat. That's basically it. This episode is just lazy. And the sad thing is that there's one season 7 episode that is worse than this episode, which I will get to later. I can't believe we're up to 3 more episodes left, and I'm actually kind of really in stress after watching these episodes. Number 3. I Battle Chip. Oh my god. I really hate this episode because of how lazy and stupid it is just to have another character be like Chuck, because they don't want to have Chuck in this episode because for some reason he's old enough to do mature things, I guess? I don't know. Here's my first problem with this entire episode. Do we really need an episode centered on Spencer and another kid who is basically Chuck's brother? I mean, oh my god. The Spencer and Chuck subplot in this show is just basically there for filler. And I already talked about this 2 times in this project. Look, the subplot between Chuck and Spencer are just there just for filler and just to have entertainment, I guess. And as for the humor, it can have its moments, but it's really not that impressive to say the least. Especially that Chuck is just so very immature because he doesn't learn his mistakes. Seriously, why are characters like Neville, Chuck, and now Chip not learning anything from their actions? It's getting old and very not good to show the kids. It's really getting old and it's getting pathetic that we get to see another character do the same thing where Chip doesn't understand that Chuck is doing very terrible things that he shouldn't be doing in the first place. I mean, I can't even say anything except that, oh my god, do we really need an episode dedicated to Spencer and another kid being like Chuck? Oh my god. Ugh. Anyway, as for Carly and the other characters, Gibby brought a phaser from the Galaxy Wars parody thing in the show. And when something bad happened at the Goody Smoothie well, Sam beats up a bully, and when Carly was holding on to Gibby's phaser and when she set it down on the table, the phaser was completely destroyed after the battle that Sam had with a college bully or something. And then Gibby feels sad that his phaser is completely destroyed. And when Freddy fixes the phaser, it does this. Yeah, it does that. If this is supposed to be hilarious, then I'm sorry. I got nothing to say about it except the phaser is just something that Spencer throw out of the way just to beat Chip with it. I'm not saying that he did anything with the phaser, but when Gibby completely overloads the phaser, it exploded. Yeah. This entire episode ends when Chip was about to pelt another trap to Spencer, and then after the phaser was completely overloaded because of Gibby, it exploded, which means that Chip is completely stuck to the elevator. And the sad thing is, this is the only episode where we get to see Chip. I'm not kidding. We don't get to see him after this episode. You know why I'm really speechless about this is that I'm really got nothing else to say about this. I don't understand why we need to have a main focus on this. I mean, for 2 years, Chuck made his last appearance in the I Beat the Heat episode, which came out 2 years before this episode aired. And I really don't understand why we have to have an episode dedicated to this. It's just unneeded and very unnecessary. As for the subplot of Gibby's phaser, am I supposed to be guilty that Gibby doesn't get the chance to show his phaser on iCarly? Or am I supposed to be unsurprised that he's actually stupid enough to actually overload it? Either way, this episode doesn't get anything better. It's stupid and lazy. I just got nothing else to say about it except they're using some ideals and experimenting things in order to have episodes exist like this. I can't even think that the April Fool's episode can even be more stupider than this. I mean, this episode just tries its best to be very goofy and tries to be very funny, but at the same time, it doesn't try anything to make up the issues with the episode. It just doesn't, and it's just very lazy. Number 2. I Bust a Thief, the final episode before I Goodbye, and in my opinion, the worst episode from season 7. When Sam's laptop has gone missing, they have to look everywhere in order to find it. And that's basically it. This episode is all about finding Sam's laptop. And when Sam got the serial number of her laptop, it was an old woman who stole it. And the entire time during this episode, the iCarly gang just looks at this woman to find any details on where she lives. And when they finally figure out where she lives, it's not actually Sam's laptop, because her laptop is red and this laptop is blue. And the reason why they figure out that it was actually the wrong serial number because of one final number at the end of the serial number, which is actually a 4 instead of a 9. It just really shows that this entire part of this episode was just completely pointless and lazy. And guess what? Throughout this entire time in this episode, Sam's laptop was in a pizza box. That's how the episode ends. The final 22-minute episode from the show only has this plot because Sam forgot to take his laptop from the pizza box. What is with the morals in these episodes? Like, really, why would Sam leave her laptop in a pizza box? Like, Is he using the pizza box as his case because it's too expensive or anything? What am I supposed to be enjoy from this episode? Almost the entirety of this episode is just trying to find where Sam's laptop has been this entire time. That's literally all this episode has. And you know what the sad thing about this whole thing is? This episode is just pretty sad on how it's the final episode before the season finale. It's very disappointing that they have absolutely nothing they have to fill us in before the season finale. This is the worst iCarly episode I've ever seen because of how lazy and poor it is. And as for Spencer, of course, you have to have subplots for other characters. And for some reason, he can't go into fucking festivals because not only does the tickets that he has doesn't use anymore, he has to take Guppy with him because he has to have a kit with him in order to enter the game room. Is this supposed to be opposite day or something? Because it's not funny and it's actually kind of stupid and lazy. This episode really confuses me a lot. Guppy returning doesn't do anything because he's only there because Spencer needs him to be in fucking festivals to win 1,000 game points. And even though that Spencer managed to get the marine dolphin thing, it really doesn't help Gibby's final appearance. This episode just amazes me. Not because of the final ideas that they have for a 22-minute episode, but for the laziest and most weakest endings I've ever seen from this show. I mean, this is just very depressing. I get that Dan Snyder wants us to be occupied with more iCarly episodes before its season finale, but you have to have some relevance to the web show no matter what. And it's very sad that at the beginning of the show, it's all about the web show, and they actually have some realistic values. But later on, in episodes like this, it's very sad how low the show has become. And as for the web show part in this episode, they actually have an animated cartoon based off of iCarly because of a fan making an animated cartoon. This is sadly the best part in this entire episode, and it's sad that it happened at the end of the show. I really found it very disappointing. I just got nothing else to say about season 7 episodes except that it's the most derailed ideas I've ever seen from iCarly. And you know what the sad thing about this whole thing? I Plus the Thief is only number 2 on this list. Do you want to know what episode that is number 1 and considered not only one of the most derailed episodes, but one of the worst episodes? You're gonna find out.